Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Chris here from Big Sports News, X Rotation out ever the flipping on these interwebs, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys a quick preview of what to expect going into Week 1's matches of Stage 4 of the CDL, that being our last stage of qualifiers and our last major before Champs and EWC. Now, hope you guys enjoyed the intro as always. Just want to get into some quick housekeeping things. We did have some crazy roster mania shakeups. I'm going to go in order of the moves that were made. So, confirmed moves, let's go to Breaking Point and check out the itemized list, right? So we have Nero joining Vancouver Surge. Wait, that's old news. Surge releasing Gwyn. Ravens releasing Craze. C9 releasing Ocus. Surge also releasing TJ, who went to Boston allegedly. And then Standy only confirmed move along with Webby. So Standy has been picked up by the Royal Ravens, taking on Craze's role as you would expect. And then on the C9 side, of course, Webby confirmed to be replacing Ocus. So as of right now, we do not know what's going on with Surge. There's still 2 spots to be accounted for, and that's where I'm going to give you guys what the current speculation is in the community. So the thought is that Nasty is going to be joining the G2 roster. Apparently, Estriel's contract is allegedly expiring in the season. Allegedly, his contract expired. Gentlemates picked up Estriel. They're letting Envoy go to the G2 side. And it's going to be Estriel, Nasty, Kremp, Skies, and Envoy. I don't see how that came through. I mean, hello? Nasty and Envoy going to G2? I mean, for Estriel and Estriel and Mamba, I'll take it. World Champion Envoy and Nasty, guy who made the COD Champs Grand Finals and the EWC Grand Finals, and famously made 3 finals last year. Yeah, lock that in, please. Okay. So it's maybe, I mean, seems like Surge got better too. We have Craze, Mamba, Lunars, and Nero. I kind of like that team way more than Gwen and TJ. This feels like it has actual direction. And then you reunite Craze and Mamba, bring in Lunars, and then you have Nero. I feel like that team has way more upside than they did before. Tej goes to Boston, so Spart, Afro, Purge, and Tej obviously replacing Nasty, the star of that team all year. Sandy to Ravens replacing Crazy, already talked about that. And then Webby to C9. Those are the moves that we know of. There was another move that was potentially going to go down. We heard that Insight might have been replaced by Abe. But yeah, apparently Insight unbenched himself. Apparently Insight benched himself, and then when the Abe move, I guess, either fell through or when they threatened it, he unbenched himself. I don't know. Just been a crazy week. Yeah, anyways, let's get into the matches because that is enough housekeeping stuff. It's just been a crazy week, guys. So, that's all the roster mania stuff. Let's get into the matches. So this new look team with Standy, Craze, Standy, Craze, yikes, Craze is not on this team anymore. Standy, Fire, Exceed, Lurks, I don't know, man. Against Koi, who has all that turmoil from trying to drop Insight. I'm going to say it's a 3-2, but I think Koi win it, just personnel-wise. Not going to think too much on it. New team versus a team who obviously just got third and then tried to drop a player. So, weird vibes, but I feel like they pull it through. I don't know. C9 with Webby. Versus New Look G2. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say New Look G2 win this just because feeling a little bit crazy. But all jokes aside, I feel like New Look G2, I feel like they'll be a pretty good team. I hope, right? It's definitely got the potential for all those guys to get tucked. So I hope they're a good team. Speaking of good teams, we have Optic Texas taking on the New Look Surge with potentially Craze, Mamba, Lunars, and Nero. I feel like no matter who's on that Surge team, I feel like Optic is Optic. I feel like it's an easy dub. So we'll say Optic win. FaZe versus the LA Thieves. This is a FaZe Get Back series, as we all know. FaZe obviously lost to LA Thieves at the major for the chip. That was their lone loss in their last 5. And up until that point, they were 4-0 against these guys on the season. And I believe they beat them at the Kason Invitational, which is not going to be included on this tally here. But as you can see, LA Thieves, with that win over FaZe, they definitely improved their season record overall. They actually have a better season record than FaZe does right now, but FaZe, I believe, is still ahead just because of winning Major 2. So, most of the community's favoring the Thieves, but you know, it's so back and forth. I'm going to say FaZe 3-2. We have new maps, new game is coming out. There's usually a hangover for the major winners, right? A lot of times the guys who win the major come into the next stage and they lose their first match. So don't want to get surprised by that again, because that's what happened to FaZe, that's what happened to Mates, and I feel like that's what will happen to Thieves. So, speaking of what will happen to Mates, I feel like Mates with Estriel. Estriel and Neptune, it's going to be a problem. And that's going to allow Sib and Ghosty to do what they want to do more. This team is going to be way better. Pace is going to be way better. I feel like Carolina is going to up their pace too. Standy and Lurks, that's going to be a really, really sneaky good combo. Clearly, if Standy got picked up, the other pro players think that he is transcendent at this point. He's been trying to get his way back into the league for the better part of 5 years, so happy to see Standy back. And I think he'll be good. I think he'll be high impact this time. I think, you know, the last time we saw him in the league was obviously on Vegas Legion, which was 2023, about 3, 4-ish years ago. That's why I said 5. I mean, maybe 3 is bad rounding, but it's been a hot minute since we've seen Standy in the league. So happy to see him get back. Hope he has a good weekend, but I mean, he has some really tough matchups. Maybe he'll beat that old Toronto team. That was the team that he was on to start that 2023 MW2 season, right? Before he ended up on the Vegas Legion. So, speaking of places where people played in the 2023 season, we have the Boston Breach with Purge, a man who has many nicknames in the community. All of them I cannot repeat on YouTube because I try to be respectful to the players. I don't like to slander. Anywho, we have Tej, feeling like Tej, Purge, Afro, and Spart on the Boston Breach. And then on the Vancouver Surge, we have Craze, Mamba, Lunars, and Nero. So personally, I feel like Surge take this, but I feel like it's a close one. I like that Craze Mamba combo. I like that along with Lunars and Nero. I feel like Lunars is one of the better players in this game. I feel like he's one of the hidden gems in the CDL right now. One of the most overlooked players. And I think pairing him with Mamba, I think it'll help Mamba to really up his pace, up his impact like we saw at EWC. And then Craze, I feel like he's going to be way better playing with a guy like Mamba, who he played with on his come up, as well as playing with guys like Lunars and Nero, who are a little bit more challengers minded than he's already played with Nero in Carolina. So I feel like they probably have some good chemistry baked in. And yeah, I mean, new team, new system. Maybe those two, Nero and Craze, go crazy and have a performance that's different from what they had in Carolina, right? I mean, they were good in Carolina, but they were not like, you know, turning heads. So, speaking of turning heads, we have the Miami Heretics, a team who some in the community were probably expecting to be a part of Rostermania if there was Rostermania between majors 3 and 4. But they sat that one out. They felt like, you know, we got this. Trakes has been amazing. Metals has been stepping up. Rancor has been Rancor, and Super has been the best S&D player in the world. So they're like, hey, if it ain't broke, let's not make a rash change like we've seen some of the other teams in the CDL do, when you could just build some synergy and not regret sending a player to challengers who, you know, consequently becomes a 1.3, like kind of like Snoopy was for a little bit after Boston dropped him, right? So, with the Miami Heretics taking on a Riyadh Falcons, who look to be in weird form. They turned up on LAN, and then they got crushed. And after they got crushed, they just never really pulled it back together. You know, they had that 3-2 against Optic. They were soaring, and then they came right back down to earth, and the LA Thieves 3-0'd them, and they looked absolutely terrible. So, I don't know what to think in this series. I mean, with the pacing, it's very similar. Both these teams like to up pace. Falcons recently won this matchup last time they played in quals. But Miami, they've consistently won this matchup over, well, the last year, I would say. Last year, obviously, Riyadh was a very different team. They 3-0'd them in March. Riyadh 3-1'd them the last time they played. You know, smaller maps. Hacienda's coming back. Miami's good at Hacienda. Then we got Gridlock Control. Ah, man, this is going to be hard with the new map set. We have new maps coming in. We have 2 new maps, so I'm not going to be biased and pick Miami this time. I'm going to go with Riyadh 3-1. I feel like Riyadh, what we saw at them from the major, just is more encouraging than what we saw from Miami, and I don't want to be biased, so going to say Riyadh. Okay, Riyadh versus the Mates. Hmm. Hmm, hmm, hmm. Uh, what do I think happens here? I mean, with Riyadh, their pace is very high, but I feel like Mate's pace will be even higher, right? Like Sib, he's kind of a fast AR, even though he plays to the back and he plays slow. He's pretty fast. Also, we have Ghosty. Ghosty's always super fast as a player. He ups pace as needed a lot, but sometimes he can be Iron Boots. I mean, obviously, but for the most part, Dan's pretty mobile. I'm gonna go with the Mates here. I feel like the Falcons, Pred and Cell, they've been playing a lot better, but I don't know. I just feel like the Paris Mates with Estriel, I feel like they'll be a much better team. I feel like that kind of fixes the weird pacing that Envoy kind of caused in this team. It would be quick at times, it'd be slow at times, and that's just kind of, uh, attributable to the way he plays. He's just a very smart, methodical kind of player, and he plays each engagement and each map differently, right? But when you have a player like Neptune who plays one way with that go button, you can't hinder that by playing differently based on what the opponent and the matchup gives you, right? And I think that's kind of why Envoy wasn't working with this team. I think it was just a thing where, like, he plays to the matchup and the opponent, which is amazing. That's why Envoy's been so successful as a player. He plays to counter and he thinks a lot. But with a player like Neptune, who's just so mechanically gifted, and a player like Sib, who's similarly as mechanically gifted, you don't need 2 big brains. You have Dan already there calling the shots. I feel like it might have just been a little bit too much there. Maybe I'm overthinking it, or maybe I'm just wrong, but that was just kind of my read. It was just always odd pacing. Sometimes Envoy would outpace everybody else. Sometimes he would be severely outpaced by the ARs. I just noticed in a lot of the box scores, the pacing of Envoy was, it had a lot of variance to it. So, that's why I think Mates 3-1. I think this will make them the team we all expected them to be, just because the pacing is going to be where I think it should have always been. So, speaking of pacing, I feel like Optic Texas just has Miami Heretics by the balls at this point in the season. I feel like Miami is just severely outgunned by teams the caliber of Optic and LA Thieves. I don't know if FaZe can really get there. I think it's just a matchup thing. I think Miami's just a little bit too fast for FaZe's slow, methodical playstyle. Um, yeah. And then in the last matchup of the weekend, we have the Boston Breach taking on New Look Cloud9. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard because the Breach, they made a move that was forced, right? They didn't want Tej necessarily. Tej became available. They picked him up because he's the best option that they saw. I guess, Spart has a lot of chem with Tej. Anyways, this is a hard one. I feel like Boston should win this. I don't know how good Wevy is. I have no clue. I mean, if he's replacing Okus and they kept the other 3, I guess Wevy's probably seen as being pretty good, because Hyde, he gave you really, really encouraging performances in S&D consistently in the last stage. Nezra looked to be their best player throughout all 3 modes. It was just a consistency thing. I mean, that team was not very good, so sometimes you just get tucked, and that's just going to happen when you're so far behind, right? But for the most part, Nezra looked to be their best player. And then Encourage, he started picking it up a lot towards the end of the stage, started dropping 40s, and he looked great on land. So I can see why they kept him. And then they bring in Wevy to replace Okus, and they're like, hey, we'll see like the best we can do with a 1-person change. But I do think that Boston Breach will probably be better. I don't know. This is like a battle of the mid. So I'm just going to say coin toss, Boston Breach win. I don't know. Let's see what the community thinks. Probably 50. Oh, 85-16. All right. So catch you guys on the next one. Hope you have a great morning, noon, or night, like I always say. Once again, this is Chris from Fake Sports News Exhortation. However the flipping is in the webs, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share it with someone else who you think might enjoy this subject matter. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Hope you have a great morning, noon, or night, like I said before, and see you tomorrow. Peace.